Yoko.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. For those who are watching or listening, Yoko is somebody who comes up pretty early in the staff designer. I think you are in the first chapter.
I remember being surprised because when I
By
looked at
being
the first,
first.
I was like, oh,
Ah,
I
it's my
didn't
name.
even, I
Yes. So
didn't
yeah,
get to up
yeah.
so soon.
Yoko's in here very early because amazing person. And we met at Etsy uh 10 years ago. Oh,
That's funny.
yeah, so strange. And over the past decade, I have gotten to watch Yoko grow internally at Etsy. Then I moved off and did other stuff in design. And then tell us what you've been up to since the interview for the book.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we were just talking about how that was like a year and a half ago. So actually, a year ago, I quit my job. And short story is I burned out. I think at the time I wasn't sure, but I am more sure of it now. But I think I was just feeling like I couldn't sustain the meeting of expectations that I was learning were changing basically for my role. And so I quit and I actually changed careers. I started exploring the world of accounting and financial services.
What?
Wow. So it's so funny to just re-explain it in a podcast environment. But yeah, it was something that I've been interested in for kind of a long time. It was just never something I did professionally, but I was always interested in my own personal finances. And I guess after I had taken a beat basically over the summer to reset my work brain, I started just thinking about this more seriously as a next career. And yeah, I started to just gather evidence about or gather like data about what the job might be like and whether it would be a good fit for me, trying to like talk to people who work in the field. I took like a real basic internet course on bookkeeping, slowly building the conviction that it was the next step to take and continued to do that. And now I'm still working part time. I'm a freelancer now. I started a company where that business is now the entity that holds my ability to freelance and any other projects that I and my husband work on.
Smart.
And yeah, that's what I've been up to. A lot has
Wow.
changed, so we can get more specific anywhere you want.
I want to start with if you can recall what the burnout felt like and what you felt was changing about the expectations, because I know you mentioned that there were some role shifts that were happening.
If we can recall, before the whole AI thing, which I think we're still in the middle of, happened, there was still a big reckoning in the tech field where people were just getting laid off all the time. Or
Hmm.
not people getting laid off, companies were laying people off all the time, just left and right layoffs. And that had been going on. I had just returned from parental leave and I was just seeing this happen. I saw one of my friends get laid off while she was on parental leave, and I was like,
Eesh.
what the
Yeah,
fuck?
that's pretty messed up.
And yeah, and so I think just seeing this happen, I hadn't been impacted, but I knew it was happening at my company. And I just started imagining that this could happen. And so, as a coping mechanism, I was like, let me imagine what it could be like to not work at this company anymore. And then eventually, that was like starting to maybe lessen the fear of it happening, maybe mentally preparing me for leaving the company. This is all happening in the back of my head. I'm still
Hmm.
happy and working at Etsy. And then I got put on a project that really just wore me down in a way that I did not expect because the project itself on paper sounded so interesting. And I remember thinking, this is such an interesting problem to solve. I really want to be working on it. I'm staying up late a lot and it doesn't seem like I'm meeting the expectations of my role. And yeah, I think the burnout was, I can tell you, actually, it was literally a year ago. It was like a Thursday before Memorial Day.
Wow.
I woke up after staying up till 3 a.m. I woke up at 6 or 7 being like, I cannot do this anymore. I was like, manager, can we talk? I am burnt out. Something needs to change. And then my manager graciously was like, let me see what I can do for you. You take a couple of days off. That was Memorial Day weekend. On Tuesday, I was like, manager, what have you got for me? And she's like, I can put another person on the team to help you out. And I was like, that is not enough. I am quitting. Thank you
Dang.
for trying.
Yeah, thanks for trying something. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you were recognizing, like, okay, there's what leadership wants me to do for this work, but there was something maybe like feeling like you were blocked or something. And so you would stay up really late to try to rack your brain and figure out how to get it to do what you knew needed to be done. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think at the time it felt like there was an expectation for a high quality experience. And that was conflicting with the expectation to get something out the door, even if it's not perfect, just so we can learn. And
Wow.
I really felt caught in the middle of that. And I'm not the sort of person who can do both at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know who
I don't
can,
think
honestly.
anybody should. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it should be an expectation. Some people can do it, and that's very cool. And I don't know what the cost is for that for them. But yeah, I remember being caught in the middle of that, and I was just like, I really can't. This is not fair to me. I can't do this anymore.
You were asked to deliver something really quickly as one person, but it also needed to be like quote unquote high craft, like great visual design, like easy to use. I imagine knowing you that it was probably a complex experience that needed to somehow be very simple. And so all of
Yeah,
that collides. And then because of the time expectations, if we can't move the date, then I have to use all the hours humanly possible, is what I'm guessing happened. And
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, amongst the people who I've seen deliver in those kinds of situations, they're usually working nights and weekends, and they usually also burn out for the same reason.
Yeah. Also, just to bring the reality of personal life into it, I think there was also a week before the burnout or something, my kid got sick. So he had to stay home from school. We were doing the halftime work, halftime care thing, splitting that with my husband. And after he goes to bed, you go to work. I go to work,
God.
me. That was not you, me.
Yeah.
So that was happening too. So that's just the reality of things. I was just talking to my therapist about how some of the ways that work is structured is not conducive to having a child.
So
Or like
real.
having not a child or just anybody else you're caring for. It could be like a parent or somebody else. Yeah. So that was, I think that was also just like, it wasn't the only thing, but it was just another straw on the back that eventually crushed the camel. Is
That
that the
makes
phrase?
so much sense. And
Mhm.
yes, that I think you've done well with the phrase.
Something like that.
You are speaking to something that I've also recognized, especially lately, that there's a tendency from leadership or from employers to think that work is the only thing that exists and to forget that human beings have additional context and that it's not an inconvenience, but it's something that is just information for them to figure out how to work with. Leadership and companies can be pretty inflexible, and that can benefit or skew toward benefiting people who are younger, who maybe just don't have family members to take care of, although an assumption because there are of course some people whose family members they do have to take care of even if they are in their 20s. People who have children are often also struggling in that kind of situation, like you said. And so there are a lot of situations where the traditional corporate environment is so inflexible that it burns people out. And for a lot of people, it can be a question of when do I leave, not if I leave. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. That sounds really stressful and intense. And honestly, it also sounds like there was a lack of prediction regarding if we put this person who's a new parent on this project without any support from another person, what could happen? I don't
Yeah.
see how this could go wrong. Like,
Yeah.
or also leadership decisions that were made.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's not on me. I also know it's not just on my manager, and I
Of
also know
course.
it's not just on her manager. It's on basically everybody,
Yeah, the whole
including
chain.
all the way up. Yeah. It really felt like a confluence of things. And I felt like I'd been through situations like this before, and maybe it is a matter of when, right? I got through the past situations. I was probably really tired, but I didn't fully burn out to the point of quitting. But I don't know, in some ways it was nice to think about how it's just like sometimes it just happens. You hope it doesn't happen, but sometimes it happens. It's not your fault. It's not necessarily this project's fault. It just like is so many things that can happen at the same time, and it was just almost bad luck.
Yeah.
Maybe some people find that disempowering, but I find it just like relieving. I'm like, oh yeah, it wasn't just my fault. Sometimes I just get put into a situation that sucks. And yep.
All you can do is control how you show up to the situation. And I think that recognizing that the best thing to do is to take care of yourself and remove yourself from the situation is a really wonderful skill, because some people don't do that and they end up in a much worse kind of situation where they have to take medical leave or something. And I've witnessed that a number of times. And I never blame a person for getting to that point. Again, it's the system. But I think that we as people have to learn and respect our limits. I say, as somebody who is often getting sports injuries and stuff like that, literally got one. Yeah, one hot off the presses. Our limits are
Take
real. We
care of
have to
yourself.
learn them. Yeah.
Yeah. My husband and I were talking about this interview leading up this morning as we were leaving from daycare drop off, and Kevin, that's his name. Kevin was like, LeBron James has got to do what's best for LeBron James. And I'm like, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Also
What a
go
king.
Knicks.
Go Knicks.
I don't actually know anything about sports, but I do feel the positive energy of New York when the Knicks do well.
Yeah. Go Knicks, go Nets, go Liberty. I love all of our teams and
All
I don't
teams.
watch any of them. Go sports. Once you made that decision and you shifted out of design work, what did it feel like to step away from the identity of being a designer? Because you were a designer for a very long time and you maybe will always still be a designer in the sense of you can design things, but not maybe in the traditional career sense.
Yeah, great question. Yes, I was a designer for a very long time. I studied design in college, and many years has have passed between college and my last job at Etsy before I quit design. In a lot of ways, I don't want to say I fell into that role, but I was just following something I was interested in and ended up over many years at this product design role at Etsy. So I think it's different from like a I want to be a designer. That is my career dream, and I'm going to pursue that. If that is you, that is awesome. I wish in some ways that I had that level of clarity when I was graduating from school. I did not. I was much more of a explore a wide range of designy things and then slowly get better at and more interested in a more specific version of design. And I felt like I had gotten maybe 5 or 6 good years of me really being like, I am good at this job and I'm really enjoying this. I'm learning a lot still and I'm able to exercise my expertise. And then I quit, right? So it did feel like a loss. It was grieving because I also thought that I could potentially, there was another timeline where I felt like I could retire at this job. Like I could just keep
Wow.
working, doing this job, solving these problems until I retired. But then the circumstances of the expectations and projects I was put on, that changed and I eventually left. So I did feel a loss of that, the loss of that potential future. But at the same time, I was in such a position, I was in such a bad place when I was like trying to decide whether to quit or not, that when I did quit, I was just like, oh my God, I'm free. Also, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not like tied to this anymore. So that felt really good. I remember I sent an email out to my friends, including Kat. Kat was also on this email. I was like, I quit my job yesterday. I feel unmoored, like like a boat that's not connected to a dock anymore. I'm just like free, but also just like floating around.
That's a great clarifying explanation of just the feeling of stepping away from something. Of course, you were grieving the loss of it, but also that you were excited maybe there was potential with the closing of one door, you're opening space for something else to happen.
Yeah, I think I did eventually get there. I don't think it felt like I was closing a door right away. I felt like I was just leaving, maybe going through a doorway out, but I
Mhm.
didn't, I was reluctant to close the door for a really long time. Speaking on the identity of a designer, I think my self-identification as a designer is not, it's not super strong. I think I happen to be good at it with my job. And I also have worked long enough where my identity is not so tied to my job that if I let that part of me go, I would be like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's cool. I'll figure out something else. I could probably, I don't know, I could probably do something else that's useful. But the thing that, in terms of my identity as a UX designer specifically, that feel like I retained and wanted to hold on to was just my interest in solving problems, in building empathy for when you're UX designers for the user, but you can be problem solving and being empathetic
Yeah.
in any kind of like work environment. And that actually makes you a really cool person to work with. So that was just like something that I held on to. I was just like, this is actually the part of the job that I actually enjoy. Technical skills, fun, but only in specific ways that I want to be good at. And if we don't agree, you company and I don't agree on what those technical skills are, I'm like, actually, I don't care. Being able to collaborate with people, being able to, I can't believe I'm still thinking about this in terms of Etsy terms, but like minimizing waste or being efficient matter to me. I like doing those things and I am good at those things. And these are also skills that I can bring to other roles. So that was like the thing that I felt like I was just like, oh, I can probably find a way to be useful professionally in some other way. And I think I've always felt that the perception of being a designer is burdensome because non-designers will think of it as, oh, you're really good at making cool visuals. And I'm like, no, I'm not good at that actually. Maybe I might be better than you, but it's not. There's other stuff about
It's not the thing that
being a
gives you the
designer.
energy, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I did
real.
find that identity burdensome, especially because a lot of my non-work friends are actually not designers. They don't really know what UX design is really. So
It's nice to have that
it
space.
felt freeing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did feel freeing. I felt like and I'm still, I don't know. My best friend was just recently like, "Can I ask you to make a graphic for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Just like, doot, 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 here.
Easy, yeah. It's like more fun now because it's not something that is tied to a capital outcome for you, like a monetary outcome. It's just a thing that you can do that's nice for people
Yeah,
now sometimes or
yeah,
for yourself.
yeah. And in that way, I'm not like professionally goal oriented. My goals, like when I think back to my professional development goals, it was just like do this thing a lot as opposed to like achieve KPI outcome. It's a legitimate KPI. It's just not something that I really felt like I could meaningfully work toward.
That makes
It's not
sense.
motivating to me. I'm
Yeah.
not goal oriented in that way.
I will just as an aside say that I've always respected, I feel like you have a strong sense of self and a kind of security about your value. And if somebody expects things from you that are just out of line with your quote unquote zone of genius or the things that you know that you're good at, it's less of a question of like, am I actually worth anything or good at things? And it's more like, huh, interesting. You're choosing to put me in a situation that's not using my skills
Did
very
we
well.
break up?
Interesting stuff. So, yeah, I think that's really important. And having an intrinsic sense of self-worth and understanding yourself to that degree is something I always nudge people to do because then you just internalize a lot less of that negative energy, but also you understand how to position yourself. And like you said, you then have the confidence to do pretty much anything because you feel like you'll always land on your feet somehow.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I do take pride in the fact that I guess to put it bluntly, I don't care about what other people think of me. I do care some about some things, but if there's someone out there who wishes to be like that and is having trouble, you can start by just pretending.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Pretending not to care.
Yeah. Honestly,
I
like
think
telling yourself does help a lot. Like, I actually don't care what other people think. If you say that enough times, then it is like, oh, actually, it's not that big of a deal. I don't care.
yeah. Yeah, there's some people who should probably care, but I think for
Yeah.
people like us,
Yeah. People who already are so anxious about how everybody feels about them, those are the people who need to say, you know what? I care about how I feel right now. And
yeah,
I'm going to try doing things that I want to do. But yeah, there are people who already do that by default and are not self-aware at all. We're not talking
yeah.
about those people. We're talking about honestly a lot of designers because a lot of designers are very,
They're
very
noticers. They
there's
notice
they
things.
notice
They're
everything.
considerate.
Yes,
Yeah,
they care
yeah.
so much and it's really
They
sweet. And
care.
also care about yourself too, please.
Yeah. Wow,
Okay,
James.
so thank you for sharing some details about kind of like when you recognize, okay, I need to step away and what that experience was like and how you shifted identities. Now that you're kind of on the other side, what would you say to a designer who is feeling that pull but is scared to acknowledge it?
I'm pulling this almost directly from a blog post that I was sent by our friend Jess Dale. It's an essay by a woman named Mandy Brown, incredible essayist, and I guess she also does career coaching. It is an essay about quitting. and what that enables. And I read it at, I was given that post, that essay, before my brain knew I needed to quit, but after I think my heart needed to. So there's like I was in a weird middle space where I'm like, what do I do? You know? And I think the takeaway from this essay is it's just an incredible essay, but it's basically just like we are conditioned to believe that quitting is bad. But and quitting is almost like an invitation to try something different, to embody a new self, to start over. And I was like, I'm quitting.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was basically it. I think it's just like understanding that it's really not. Like I said, it didn't. Oh no, I'm crying.
I
Oh,
knew
here we
I was
go.
like, it's not a conversation with Yoko without Yoko tears, which are my
Without the
favorite thing.
tears.
So
Um,
good.
when I went through the door of leaving corporate tech, I didn't close the door. You can leave, you can like go out that door and not close the door, if that makes it a little bit less scary. But I think it still takes a lot of like fortitude to be like, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
I think the door was already open. To be fair, like I didn't exit it yet, but the door was opening through me just being like, I'm seeing my friends, people get laid off. I think that's a possibility for me in the future. I don't know what's going to happen to me. Door
Yeah.
opens a little bit. I basically just throw myself out the door. Door stays open, right? It's not a closing of a chapter entirely. And I think one thing that will fortify you, this essay will say, as you navigate leaving, going through this passageway, this doorway, is talk to your friends. Talk to your friends who are invested in you, the people who care about you. Maybe not talk with the people that you work with, even if you're very close with them, unless you have the level of trust that is like, we can be real with each other. And I am about to tell you that I might leave.
Yeah.
Start talking about it, talking about how you're feeling. And I think you'll find the clarity that you need to stick it out for a little longer or to just get out.
I've had times where seeing a lot of people leave tech, I've had to have that conversation myself of should I stay? Should I go? Is there a way that I can continue to participate in this industry that feels like values aligned and ethical and also supports the things that I want to be doing with my time? And ultimately, I got to a place where I was like, oh, actually, like I am doing a lot of the things that I want to be doing with my time. I'm volunteering, I'm traveling, I'm taking classes, I'm actually doing a lot of the things that I would be doing if I weren't working in technology. And so I ended up landing back in the place of, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this for more time. But I
Yeah.
also understand going through that cycle and then saying, nope, I'm good. It's time for me to go, at least for now. It sounds like in your case, would you say does it matter to you if it's a permanent break from design or if it's just an exploration in another direction?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of perspective because I am prepared for a future where I just don't go back to design, but I'm not ready to say never again. I'm just not a never say never. I'm just a never
Yeah,
say never person. So I'll be like, sure, yeah,
could
maybe. Here,
happen.
I'll make a graphic for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
you'll still have a portfolio of fun projects that are probably actually cooler than a lot of what other people are working on.
yeah, and when I think about what it means to be definitive in that way, I'm like, who does that really help? If it helps me to close the door, sure. But like, I remember after I left my job, as I was starting to pick up this new career, I was almost afraid to like make the announcement on LinkedIn or whatever. I ended up sending an email, which is like my preferred mode of communication. But I remember thinking like, I don't want people to think that it's over. But also, it's okay if they stop thinking of me as a designer. I'm okay with that. I can always change my mind. I think it's part of the reason why I felt okay leaving is I think I can change my mind about what job I want to do. And if that happens again in the future, like I'm just gonna say, okay, I came back.
Yeah.
The pull to design, my passion, it's so strong. I came back. I cannot imagine that happening. But who never knows?
I feel like a lot of people from the Neopets generation just happened to fall into the world of design professionally. And
We happen to have the right skills and technological foundation, I think, where we're well suited to take this forward, especially in an AI world, which we can talk about as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious what, if you've used AI at all, how you've been using it. And I think you've used it at least a little bit, like for your own personal projects or like
Yeah.
professional projects in the new world.
Yeah. So, first thing I'll say is AI is a tool and a technology. And just like any tool and technology, it's really hard to just explore it if you've got a job with expectations. I could not start that exploration until I quit, basically. I didn't have time. There was a sense of I'm supposed to be learning this, but it's really not. I can't figure out a way to fit that into my workflow right now and the needs of my current job. So, people who are feeling the pressure, I feel for them. You need time and a little bit of boredom
Yeah.
to explore and really find use out of a new tool. Right. I'm trying to remember how I got into Figma, like when we made the switch from
Yeah.
Sketch to Figma. I'm like, how did we do that?
Isn't that
I think
wild?
Figma was actually, maybe Figma was so intuitive
Because we came from
that we were,
Sketch. So yeah, it was like an import, I
it was,
think.
yeah, it felt like a natural, it felt like a much more organic transition to switch tools then.
But
AI is really different from
did
that.
you use auto layout? Did you how did you
Oh
learn
yeah,
auto
once
lay
it came
that
out,
part?
I was like, oh my God, it's like divs,
Yeah, I know. For me, I also was like, oh, I remember
divs
how
in
this kind of works.
Flexbox.
Maybe it was
Yeah,
easier
I'm
for us, but yeah, I had a moment where I was like, I've seen this before, and I just need to poke around at it for 20 minutes, and then I think it'll make sense to my brain. That and like variables, I was like, I get it. And also, I need at least like a day where I don't have work responsibilities to acquire these new skills that will help with my work responsibilities. And that's, I think, what you're saying is that with AI, you need a lot more than one day. You need like
yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so different as a tool from the kind of way that I think designers are used to working that I think it's a harder transition for
Yeah.
sure. So I'll say that it wasn't until I had made some space for myself to actually explore. But the way that I have been using it, I'm still a weird stickler about coding because my website is it's really basic and I built it myself, so I don't want to throw all that away.
Yeah.
So I basically used AI as a consultant, maybe almost like a, okay, if something is not working, can you help me understand why?
Mm.
Or is this possible? I think it's possible based on my knowledge of HTML and CSS from like 2010, but that was like 15 years ago. So can you tell me if there's a better way to do that? And then I'll look it up and then write the dang code myself, which is so silly at this point. But at least that's how I was using it before. The other major ways I've been using AI are actually at my current, as I mentioned, I do accounting work now. And part of accounting is basically just looking at two pieces of information and making sure that the things line up. Do all of the lines match? Where is there a line that doesn't have a matching line on this side? And that is actually something, if you can sort of imagine the process in which you do that manually, like you look at two spreadsheets and you're like, line, 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 line. They're matching because these numbers match. They're matching because these words match. But if they don't match, then that means there's a line that is not matching. AI is a great, like, I was like, hey, can you help me make a small program that will just do that for me?
Yeah.
I got to do a little fun thing where I was just like, okay, can you now make it into an HTML page? And then I can change the styles a little bit, import into Figma, move it around, make it pretty. So I use AI for that. And I actually am still working on this, but I'm trying to create a personal operating system. This is a thing that I've heard other folks do to varying levels of complexity. If I think about my own operating system as a folder where I have little projects or like an Apple Notes app where you're just like jotting down ideas, I've been using AI to bring some organization into that to help me remember if I've like thought of this before. And that motivates me to continue adding to my own little filing cabinet of projects and ideas. So it helps me keep organized. And it does a nice little thing where it's like, can you just link me to all of the projects that are about books that I've been reading? I don't, it doesn't actually do that yet, but I imagine I could use it like that as I read more books since I started this project. I've only read a couple since I started this work.
I think it's great to hear how the skills that you acquired as a designer are showing up in the work that you're doing now. And that is
Yeah.
something that I think is important for people to know that everything that you learned before, just because you transition careers, you're not throwing it out. You probably are actually going to end up using a lot of those skills in some way. And it's cool that even as somebody who isn't a design practitioner in the capitalist sense at this point, that spirit still carried through. And then you found ways to bring that part of yourself into the new work that you're doing as an accountant. So cool.
Yeah. I think what I'll add to what you said, I 100% agree. We can talk about life, but we can just imagine our professional careers. If we imagine our careers as like accumulation of the skills that we have gained, that's so freeing because then you can be like, oh, I can just work on what I want to do to the extent that we can within the systems that surround us. I think it gives you a little more permission to be like, I actually am not that good at visual design and I don't want my performance to be measured by that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If I want to bring that skill into my toolbox, then yeah, I'll work on it. But I have other skills that I think I'm good at. If I get better at them, that makes me a better worker in that sense. And then eventually you'll find a way to find it useful. I just like being a useful person. So I think that helps.
Yeah. This is why we're values
Yeah.
aligned because the whole reason I became a designer was one, to understand how people work, and then two, to help them in some way, to be of service to people because I like doing that. It's nice
Yeah.
when you've cleaned something up and then people are like, wow, it's like
Wow, you cleaned it
so,
up. It's
yeah,
clean.
so good, so helpful. And then if they're like, oh, it also looks really great, I'm like, cool, cool, love that. But yeah, I'm definitely not driven as much by visual design, which is funny because I literally went to school for graphic design. I fully
Oh my
understand
gosh.
communication design. But yeah, like my thing is really that service aspect. So shout outs to all the systems designers out there, a lot of
Service
the
design, system
traditional
design.
service designers, like traditional UX practitioners, I think, are often driven by that need or that want to be of service to others. And that's very important. And like you said, it also is a lot of times that skill set is something that can be applied to a lot of different places. So honestly, as somebody who also it doesn't sound like you're maybe spreadsheeting all the time, but some of the time, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of spreadsheets.
Give me those
Yeah.
cells with the X and the
Oh,
Y and the columns and the
so good.
rows, and you can put formulas in them. That's crazy.
So
Wow, so
wild.
smart.
Yeah, I gotta learn how formulas work because I only know some of the basic ones like count if and stuff like that. And I just feel like there's a whole world that I
Oh,
could be tapping into.
yeah. That I also am like, hey Claude, can you? I'm trying to do this. Can you just give me the formula for that? And Claude's like, here you go. And I'm like, thanks.
Wow, smart. I'm always asking people how they use AI because I want to understand what they've found useful and what they found annoying AF. And I think to your point of like, okay, the thing that's useful is, can you explain this to me like I'm five? Or can you just walk me through how this works? How would you build it? This is how I was thinking of building it. Does that make sense? Having it be a
Yeah,
conversation is a lot more valuable for you as the person, I think, than just having it be your little servant that builds the thing for you, because then you don't know how it
yeah,
works.
yeah. And I think I said earlier that like AI is a tool. There's that aspect of it, and I think there's also an aspect of there was a moment where the value of AI sort of clicked in my head was when I first was like, oh, AI can help me solve this problem. Like I realized that I was thinking about solving a problem that I was like, oh, AI can help with that. And then once I got to that point, I was like, oh, this problem, I can figure out a way to leverage AI to help me like figure it out. There was a time before that moment where I was just like, sounds useful, don't know how I'm going to use it.
Yeah, like
I
the
don't
smart
want to,
hammer's
I
just
don't,
not working. I don't see where I
yeah, I
should
don't
be.
want,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know. It's not being useful to me. It's just telling me I'm absolutely right. I'm like, ah. And then I'm like, oh, wait, actually, I have something for you to help me with.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's
So,
like you were searching for the right situation
yeah,
versus let me just spray AI on everything, which is
yeah,
not fun or helpful.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
not helpful
yeah.
at all.
Thanks for,
Especially when you
yeah,
reach the level of seniority or technical, we have domain experience enough to be like, that's bad, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
That happens so
Or like
often.
yeah, or we know enough that's actually that's not going to work. Maybe that's cute, but it's not going to work in the system because I have the context to understand where the complexity lies. And yeah, it's like a provocation, but it wouldn't actually work. We have that level of expertise and knowledge, right? Without that, it's hard to be critical.
That's so real.
Yeah,
Awesome. We are
we are
getting
running out of
close
time.
to the end of our time. So I'll ask
Oh, this is so
you.
fun.
Oh, I know. I mean, I love talking to you and for everybody. Again, Yoko's the best. I love gassing up my friends. But yes, thank you for taking your time to talk to me. I will have us wrap with two questions. The first of which is, what is one thing that you wish more people in tech knew or did now that you're outside looking in?
This is actually something that came to me as we were talking. The skills that you build as a user experience designer are so helpful in all kinds of ways that I am almost excited for designers to leave their fields and do other things. All y'all other fields are about to get upgraded because there's going to be a designer who is like, I'm tired of making pretty things. I just want to be good and useful and accomplish a goal, solve a problem. I'm going to do it in finance. I'm going to do it in environmental science. I'm going to do it in, I don't know, politics, whatever. I'd like to see that skill and inclination just disseminate out of the field. There's still, yeah, there's room for us outside of design.
A designer would be an incredible mayor, for example.
For
Wow.
real.
Wow, the synthesis that they would do, the problems that they would solve, the service design that
Distinguished
would
product
happen.
designer becomes mayor of New York City. God,
That's
would
the
love
dream.
that.
That's the dream. I need somebody to do this. Everybody who's watching and
Please,
listening, please do this. Think about it.
if you're
Run for
thinking about
something.
it, tell
Yeah,
me about
start
your
thinking about it.
campaign.
Oh my gosh. All right. Final question. Where can people find you on the internet these days?
Oh my gosh. You can just go to my website. I can't promise there's a lot there. My website is yoko.cool.
It's such a good domain name and it is
Thanks.
a good website. I like just looking at it sometimes just because it's a reminder that everyone should have a little corner of the internet to themselves.
That's how I treat it. If you want to know more about me, that's where it is. If you don't see much, that's all I'm sharing right now.
Hell yeah.
You can email me. You can find my email. You can find a way to contact me on my website. I love to talk to people one on one and meet people in the field. Love to talk to people about do shop talk, corporate gossip. Love that shit.
Yes, we love some
Feel free to
goss.
reach out to me for real.
Awesome. Thank you, Yoko, for your time.
Thank you, Kat. Thanks for letting me just talk and unload and release my feelings to the world.
Your words are great. Your feelings are great. All right, y'all. Cheers.